feature presentation.
Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by actor, model, and host Christine Wynn. Christine, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. Thanks for asking. Christine, the name of the game is really random. That's where I ask you a random question and you give me the real answer. Some of these questions are custom made just for you, and some of these questions are generic ones that I ask all the people I interview. So here's the first question. Superpower you'd love to have?
Read people's minds.
Favorite movie?
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Favorite color?
Red.
Favorite guilty pleasure?
I watch reality TV, a lot of it.
Christine, a movie that should have been released back in the summer. I've been waiting for a very long time. That's when we heard this movie was going to be released. The movie is called Girls, Guns, and Blood. What exactly is going on with that movie? When will this be released?
Well, the problem with the movie was, like with any low-budget film, at some point you start running out of money, and then you have to build up your finances again. And I think that we had to do that at some point because we went through a lot of editors, we went through a lot of different post-production problems, which is always about whether or not it's done right. And so I think that the producers we're just not happy with a couple of the cuts that we had, and so they kept on redoing it, and that's what's taking a little bit longer. But I do believe it is slated to come out. You probably want to check Girls, Guns, and Blood website and ask the producer themselves, but I believe it's slated to come out January, February 2019 now.
What exactly is the tone of this film? Is it more in line with the late-night movies we have seen you do in the past, or is it an action movie? What exactly is the tone of the movie?
The tone of the movie is it's a perfect Planet Terror, Quentin Tarantino. But in grindhouse films, girls are usually exploited. They're exploitation movies, and the girls are usually tortured or killed, basically terrorized. Well, in our film, we turn the tables on the men, and we do that to them. So there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of nudity. There's a lot of sexual intonations in it, but not on the level of the late-night movies that people are used to seeing me in. This is more violent, and those that I'm in that people are used to seeing me, they're more comedy-based. And this has dark humor, but it's definitely not a comedy.
The most recent movie I've seen you in is a movie called Cinderella's Hot Night. You played the fairy godmother in that movie, but that's the last, quote, late-night movie I've seen you in, and I just recently learned within the past 6 or 7 months that Cinemax isn't going to be airing any of that stuff. They're not even airing the reruns of some of the movies you've done in the past. Why exactly did they decide to not continue on making and releasing those type of movies?
Well, I talked to some of the people, because I used to be really in with some of the corporate people at Cinemax and HBO Late Night, which is basically the same company.
Right.
And what they told me is that the one person that was always championing these movies has now left the company. And so, and plus it's kind of played out, there's so much free stuff on the internet that the shows right now, and plus with the advent of shows like Game of Thrones, I think True Blood started it. There's a lot of sexual shows out there now. So we are not really pushing the envelope the way our shows used to push the envelope. And if they can spend more money on a better production rather than spend, bits and pieces here on low budget films, I think that's what they're trying to do now. They're trying to clean up, basically, their programming.
Now, in the past, I've watched some of your movies, and sometimes I just fast forward the sexual stuff and just watch the movie, just the acting.
I love that.
And we're going to get to all the different movies and TV shows that you've made in this genre, but sometimes I just watch the funny stuff because I think there's really good comedy in these movies. But I understand what you're saying, and I think it makes total sense because it is a different world now. Back when you started making these movies, the internet, it was around, but it wasn't as important as it is now, and everything that you're saying makes total sense. But one thing that I really wanted to ask you is, how much has this hurt your career? Because obviously you were making a bunch of these movies every year. obviously it's hurt me as a fan because I love watching them, but how much has this hurt your bottom line?
You know what, it really hasn't, because I think that, like, I think with any good actor, you have to move on as the genres move on, or as you get older, you know, you want to do better, not better, but like bigger things. Mm-hmm. And I don't, you know, it's like, I never cry because something ends. I just see it as an opportunity for something else to begin. And so it hasn't really hurt me, but then I'm a natural born hustler. You know, I'm never going to starve, and I'm always going to work somehow or other, and I'm always going to try to love what I'm doing. And so that's why I'm branching out now, and I'm doing things that I have a big interest in, which is sports, cooking, lifestyle, you know, arts, entertainment, and culture. Not to say that if another movie was thrown my way, I might not do it. Of course I would. I'm good at it, you know, and it's especially written right, which we have great writers. I mean, I love that you said that you enjoyed, and you probably of the very few would fast forward to the acting parts, but that's what attracted me to these movies in the first place. But I'm sad that we aren't doing it anymore, mostly because I miss seeing my family. You know, if you notice, it was always mainly the same cast of characters. Right. You know, the same actors that were doing it, because it's a smart thing. It's like with anything, like Judd Apatow and all of them, you know, the Ocean's 8, Ocean's 9, 10, 11 people. Once you get a good crew together, you want to keep on working with the same people again. And so I think I miss that the most. I miss seeing these people once a year and being on set with them, you know, for like 7 days straight. They're like family. But no, I'll never starve, and I'm sad that genre is done, but it's opening new doors for me, because I'm forcing myself now to actively do other things.
Now, in all fairness, I have done the other way around and watched none of the acting and watched all the sex parts. I just have to be honest here. I've done both. I've done both, but I do enjoy the entire product as a whole. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm happy. I guess, I mean, so many people, like the first question anyone ever asks, and I'm surprised you haven't asked it yet, but I'll answer it anyways. The sex is not real in it. We leave that for, you know, the pros at that. The sex is all simulated, hence it's acting. But I guess I looked really fairly like true to life, because people really thought that I was having sex on camera. But I'm like, no, it's just the act of lovemaking. Everybody does it. But I'm happy that people enjoyed watching it. Obviously, I'm doing something right.
When you found out they weren't going to be making any more of these movies, how did you take the news? Obviously, you're in good spirits. You've moved on. You have more projects. This door closed. Another one opened. Everything's good now. But back when you found out that they weren't going to be making any more of these movies, how did you take the news?
It's just kind of like finding out that, you know, you go and they're not making your favorite shade of lipstick anymore. It's like, okay, find another lipstick. No need to cry about it.
Did you see this coming? Was this something that you had anticipated, hey, you know, the end could be near for these kinds of movies?
Not really. And, you know, honestly, I thought that maybe they would be looked on as, like, more acceptable and not so much late night with things like Game of Thrones, you know, being on air. I mean, I remember shooting episodes of True Blood, and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing the same things on this set that I was doing on, you know, my late night sets. So I actually thought that we'd be doing more and they would continue. So I was a bit surprised that, you know, they stopped doing it. But I got it. You know, it's like with all these other shows and them putting more money into this kind of programming, you know, something has to get cut out. It's always about money in the end.
Does it offend you when people call you a porn star? Because in the past you've said you're not a porn star, you don't have sex on the screen, that doesn't apply. Does it offend you when people think of that? And also, to the layman out there, why isn't that title appropriate for you?
You know, that's kind of, I don't know how to describe how I feel about this. I'm not offended, because I don't think, unless you understand all the different classifications of things, you know, it's very easy to typecast someone or classify things in just general categories. But I don't like it when people call me a porn star, because I'm not. To me, porn is the actual having sex. You know, it's getting paid money to have sex. What I do is I act. You know, it's like if I go and kill someone on set, am I a murderer? No, I'm an actor. And so if I do a love scene, I'm not a porn, you know, actress. I am an actress. And so I always try to stress that, but I realize not a lot of people understand the difference, and it's not something bad. I have a lot of porn stars that are my friends. Some of the biggest porn stars are my friends. They're great people, but, just like I wouldn't want to be called a singer because I don't sing, it's like I wish people knew more of the classifications, because I think, too, there's a little bit of a stigma sometimes with porn. And that's sad because everybody watches it. I mean, you're lying if you've never watched it a day in your life, and you're a hypocrite if you ever put other people down for it. Since I know for a fact everyone's watched some form of porn. But I'd rather not be classified like that, because in the end, I'm an actress, and the reason I did all those movies because I wanted to continue acting. There are a lot of actors out there that they're just waiting for that big part. And when I drove myself out here from Houston 13 years ago, I came out here to act, and I've done so every single day I've been out here, so I've been very fortunate.
During your career, you've worked with several porn stars, some of the biggest names in the industry. You've worked with a lot of different porn stars, both male and female, during your career. Why didn't you decide to go down that route? Because you've worked with so many of these people, and people naturally assume because of the nature of these productions that you have dabbled in porn in the past. So why didn't you just go full-blown porn star?
I've been offered a lot of money, and it's never been, because it's sexuality. When I grew up in Texas, I'm honestly, if you knew me, I'm like a tomboy. I'm like a big frat boy in real life. And I never saw myself as very sexy or sexual. And doing these movies was just another way for me to continue acting. And so sex to me is a very private thing. I'm not I don't overtly talk about sex. I don't joke about sex a lot. That's why I consider myself not that sexy. And so when I do, it's very private. It's with someone special, and it really means something to me. And I think that obviously if you do porn, it's not that, I don't know what people's personal lives are, but I would imagine that the more you have sex in general, the less it becomes meaningful. I don't know how to describe it. I hate to offend anyone by saying this, but I would just think that it's harder to see it as a meaningful experience or special if you do it all the time. And for me, that's really special. That's a very private thing in my life.
Because people have a very difficult time separating the two, the late night movies that you make and traditional porn, has it hurt your career in any way? Has it closed some doors for you being a part of these movies just because people don't actually understand what you're doing in these movies?
Oh, yeah. I have to be honest. I've shot myself in the foot, career-wise in some ways. But thank God things have come out like Game of Thrones, other things like that, where sex on film, the act of sex on film is not so taboo anymore. But yeah, when I first started out, and I didn't even know, honestly, Mike, to me it was just another acting gig. I had no idea that there was going to be any kind of stigma with it. I did not know that I would get so known for doing these things, because with them playing all the time, the fact that I was basically in almost every one of them that was on TV, and then with the advent of MySpace, Facebook, and social media, it was just, being on TV has now turned me into being on everything. And the news spread like wildfire, and then of course people do the screenshots, which shame on them, they shouldn't do that, but they do screenshots and then they put them on different sites. I got really known for it and recognized for that, so that when I did go in, I've had a couple contracts pulled at the very last minute because people have found out that I've been in these type of films, and that hurt. But I can't say I wish I'd never done it, because if I wish I'd never done it, well, shit, I'd be sitting at home not doing anything, right? I'd be like a 9-to-5 job,
right?
So, but yes, it has hurt me in certain ways. But everything takes time to mend, and I think that not that I need to clean up my image, but I haven't done as much in the recent years, and I've moved on to other things. So slowly, people are starting to see me now, aside from all the sexy stuff.
One thing that I've really wanted to ask you forever, for as long as I've known you, because I've been following your career for a very long time, 10 plus years, and one thing that I really wanted to ask you is this: did you ever audition for 2.5 Men? Because I just think with your comedic timing, your look, you're the appropriate age of the women that Charlie Sheen dated on that show. I just think that you would have been the perfect person to be on that show. Did you ever audition for that show?
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say. No, I have never auditioned for that show.
One of the greatest Hollywood tragedies of all time. I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, thank my agent for that. I've never even watched a single episode of it. I've watched more of Charlie Sheen's rants and raves.
Oh, sure.
I've never seen one episode of it, but I heard it was really great, and he plays basically who he is, Yeah. So, would have been great.
You would have been perfect on that show. I would have even settled for you during the Ashton Kutcher years. Even though I didn't like the show when he took over, I would have even settled for you to be on that show. And you didn't even have to date Charlie Sheen. You could have been with John Cryer. Just as long as you were on that show. I just think that you would have been perfect.
Him.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Right?
Yeah. It's just terrible that you never got to audition for that show, because I think that you would have been great on that. So I wanted to ask you all these years about that thing. Now, in the past, you've said that your favorite role is when you played Super Ninja Doll in the movie of the same title. If that's your favorite role, let's say that I don't know anything about your career, what would you say is your best role, and the role that, okay, if you've never seen me act before, this is the one to check out because it highlights my skills the best?
Oh, wow. Well, it would have to be in different genres, because most of the late night stuff is comedy based, and I know for a fact that that's my strong point. Mm-hmm. And so for that, I'd say Super Ninja Doll. I just love that because it shows my comedic timing. And I think that was the best one. And then the latest movie I did, Girls, Guns, and Blood, that shows a little bit of comedy and also the real person I am. It's a strong woman, Mm-hmm. It was more drama-based. So of the things I would tell people, if I had to cut my reel together, I would cut those two reels together to show people my range.
Would you say that being a part of these late-night movies has accelerated your skills as an actor more so than being on, the traditional movies and TV? Because you're working with very thin budgets, and time is money, and you don't have much of either. Would you say that being in that machine has made you a better actor than you would had you been off doing something else?
Oh my gosh, for sure. I cut my teeth on these films. And so I came in and, the first couple ones I was super intimidated too, because I had barely been on set. Most of the things I had done before were like commercials where you only have like so many minutes or seconds of acting, or I'd done theater. And it's so different when you're shooting a movie. You have to learn all this different terminology, how to rock into a space, that means walk into the scene. And I remember one of my first times on set, the director asked me to rock into a space, and I just stood there, and he was like, I don't know if I'm speaking like, foreign language, but can you please walk in? And I was like, okay. And so small mishaps like that have made me a better actor, because I honestly learned how to be on a set by actually being on a set, not mm-hmm. theory, not taking classes, mm-hmm. but it was actually real time. It's like if you want to learn how to drive, get in a car and start driving, right? Instead of taking a bunch of exams. So yeah, and I just have to thank, like Fred Olin Ray, Don Bluth, Jim Wynorski for giving me my first starts and really like helping me become a better actor on set. The acting part, I think that's innate because it's always been a part of me. It's something I love to do, and I've done it since I was a child. I mean, I act in front of my parents, in front of, neighbors. Anytime we had a special celebration, I was always like center stage. But what they gave me was the opportunity to become a professional at it. And I think it's just great. And, talking about learning how to be on set, you have to learn how to deal with being an actor and being good at what you do. You have to learn how to deal with different people, different personalities. And directors are a big part of it. And I remember, like Jim Wynorski, I love working with him, and he's definitely a character. But his way of directing is different from anyone else's. And, it's like every director has their own way. But his thing is like a lot of actors, are intimidated to go on set with him because he doesn't always have what we call like a line, or what is that, a call sheet where you know the exact, you don't memorize usually. Rarely does an actor memorize the entire script. I mean, that would be very hard. It's like 160 pages, or like however many pages it is. But you rely on the fact that every day when you go on, that you're on set, there's a list of the scenes that you're going to do in the order that you'll do them. So you kind of prep the night before for those scenes. Well, Jim, he doesn't have one of those. You basically just need to know your shit when you go on set. And it's very intimidating for some people because not a lot of people can memorize that fast, or switch gears that fast. And I think I was just lucky because either I was so intimidated that I didn't want him to yell at me, or maybe because I have like a photographic memory. I went to law school, so I memorize things a lot faster. But it was an experience to learn how to be on his set, not get yelled at, and not leave crying, because that's been known to happen before.
Comedy is the genre that you're most known for. That's the genre that people associate with you when they think about your career. And from your fans, there's a massive demand for you to be on a sitcom for a major network. So are you any closer to getting on one of those sitcoms, whether it's as a recurring character, a lead, or just a five-liner or less, one of those?
Well, that's my goal, like every day, every year. So hopefully something will come up one of these days. But in the meantime, I've started to write for myself and started to produce my own stuff. So if I don't get on an existing sitcom or a comedy or episodic, then hopefully one of these days I can get together with the people that I've become friends with and I've worked with, and we can come up with our own sitcom. And then, if they don't write it for you, you write it for yourself and place yourself in it. But yeah, that's like my general overall goal, would be to be on an episodic one of these days.
Is comedy your favorite genre?
I do like comedy, but I'd say comedy and action together. Because I don't get to play it often. I'm a little bit more so now that I'm branching out, but I usually play like the good person, the heroine, the person that comes out okay in the end. But what I realize is more my personality inside my head, at least. Okay, this is my personality inside my head. Like, I'm a badass, and I'm a little evil, but an evil that people can relate to. Because if you notice, it's always the evil person that has a better backstory, and you can kind of relate to them better than the person that's always like milk and cookies, And so, but yeah, comedy is like where it's at for me. But I wanted to do it with more action, because then you can be an evil character that's still comedic. It's a juicier role.
You've played several villains, even though mostly you're the leading lady and expected to be the good person in the movie. What was your favorite villain role? Because you've played a couple, and of course I'm going to be butchering titles because there's 9,000 titles to these movies, but there was like Baby Dolls Behind Bars, you played the warden. There was Dirty Blondes from Beyond or something like that. You played this like queen of a spaceship. Erica Jordan was your henchwoman. Like, you've played a villain in the past, so what would you say was your favorite villain role?
I liked the Dirty Blondes from Beyond because it's kind of funny. I like the wardrobe for it. Everyone wants a cape, and then crunch their fist up and tell people they're going to rule the world. Right. The world will be mine.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of your lines in that movie.
Yeah, I know. And in my head, the moment you asked me about this, I pictured myself in that one where my face just scrunched up.
Yeah.
Like, ha, 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 ha. But yeah, that was my favorite one, just because, we had the best costume designer, Elizabeth Jett, and she put me in this great green costume with a long, flowy cape, because, it's kind of like Darth Vader. When you're an evil character, at one point, you want to take that cape and just swing it around and walk away.
Right. And now that you mention it, I think in the credits of that movie, you do end, because they always do like a freeze frame and then your name appears in the credits. I think you are doing some like really sinister villain pose at the end.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's my villain pose, of course. That was a fun one. Like, it's fun reminiscing with you for these. So that's why I say, this is what I miss the most about these movies. They're so campy. And I think that's why the ones that I did so well. We didn't take the thing too seriously. It's supposed to be funny,
Right.
It's like, if you throw in 5 sex scenes, in a movie, then what can you do to make it not so crazy? Like, what is it? gratuitously sexy. You got to throw some crazy humor in there.
Right.
And so we were really successful with that. And I just had so much fun, especially when you watch the bloopers. Those are my favorite parts, I think.
Yeah. And that also shows that the production is dedicated to the acting, because you are doing, yes, you have to work fast, and yes, you have to know your stuff, but some people just think that these are just, okay, let's not even worry about the acting, let's just get right to the sex. But then when you see those blooper reels, then you know, okay, they are taking the acting seriously. That's what I think.
Oh my God, of course. I mean, we get on set like at 7 in the morning. We shoot 12-hour days. We're shooting like 20 pages a day, which is unheard of. Like when you shoot a real movie, you shoot about 2 or 3 pages a day. Like when I was doing the Hangover movies,
right.
We would shoot a part, not a whole scene even, a part of a scene, which is like 2 to 3 pages in one like 12 to 14-hour day. So if you can imagine doing 6 movies in 9 days, how long the days can be. And I'm talking, I mean, there's dialogue in this, right? The easiest parts of these movies were the love scenes. We call them love scenes. Mm-hmm. That's what they're called on the script.
Okay.
I just love, for that that scene. But those are the easiest ones. It's one continuous take. The actor, the director, like, now that they're over, I can kind of tell you all the secrets.
Sure.
The director would be like, okay, guys, so he'd get everyone onto a closed set. The set would be closed and not a bunch of looky-loos, or watching us. Mm-hmm. And he would say, okay, so what are the 4 or 5 positions you guys want to do? And, it becomes even unsexy, once you break it down. So we'd be, we'll do cowgirl, we'll do missionary, we'll do this, we'll do that. And they shoot continuously through the whole thing. Whereas in a normal, like, just scene with dialogue, you have to shoot it maybe if no one, messes up their lines. You have to shoot it a medium shot, a close-up shot, and a wide shot. So that's 3 shots per scene, And then if someone messes up a line, then there you go. There are 6 shots, 7 shots, 10 shots, Whereas a love scene, 1 shot. That's it.
We've heard all what can be released about the making of these type of movies, the sock the guy wears, that kind of stuff. What other behind-the-scenes stuff can you give us? Like, what other secrets are there that if you just watch the movie you would never know, and also kind of leads us down that path of thinking that this is real sex? Any other secrets?
I think the best acting, and what we do with the love scenes is acting, you have to react. And so thank God that most of these people are really good looking that we're working with, so it's easy, it's naturally easy to react, and that's why they do give us a sock and a patch. So no skin is ever skin on skin, so you're not supposed to really get that excited. Mm-hmm. But there has to be some kind of chemistry. And a lot of times, I'm great friends with all the actors and actresses I've worked with, and I find them attractive. And so this is probably how I would act with them if I were to have like a night drinking out with them and run into them in a bar. So it's the reacting, I think, is the big thing, and I think most of us are slightly attracted to each other in some way or other. And on set there's a lot of flirting, and that helps too. The guys are always flirting with the girls are, and it kind of builds that sexual tension up so that when you do have your scene, it's a lot more real.
When you meet your fans, wherever you would meet your fans at this point, the internet has made the world such a small place, and they can find you on Twitter and Instagram and all those good places. What do they say to you? What do they ask you? Is it more questions about how these movies are made, or is it just comments about what they felt when they saw this stuff? Like, what exactly do your fans say? And is it ever awkward meeting a fan, because to be a fan of you, it's very difficult to have seen you naked at some point during your career. So is it ever weird? Like right now, is it weird that I've seen you naked like 1,000 times?
You know what? No, because I think I'm just so used to it. I started my career off with Playboy, and so I started my career off in my birthday suit. And right. It was an eye-opener, an epiphany for me that I'm like, my body's okay. I would say great, but it's okay, and I should be proud of it. And so I'm never weirded out. I think it's more people who have seen me who are weirded out. And I wish I wouldn't feel that way, because I'm not, so why should they be? Unless they're thinking crazy, lewd thoughts, mm-hmm. and that's all on them.
Right.
But when people meet me out and about, I honestly have the best fans. They're always so nice. And they always come up and they always say, "Oh, I'm a fan of your work," and I've seen you. And I'm like, they always say this. So I know you look really familiar. Where is it I've seen you again? And I'm never going to sit there. I was at Pink Slate recently shooting for my sports show. And This gentleman came up to me, and he was with his daughter and his wife. And he kept on alluding to the fact that he had to have known me from somewhere. Was it on TV? And I never, sometimes I make him sweat a little bit. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you have, He's like, well, what is it you've been on? And I'm like, I've been on basically a lot of things. Like, what do you think you see me on, And then they won't say anything later on when they're by themselves. They'll come up to me again and be like, actually, I know exactly where I've seen you on, but I didn't know if it would be weird if I mentioned it. And I was like, no, not at all. And I appreciate you coming up and saying hi. Yeah. But yeah, I think they are more embarrassed that they had seen me naked than I am at the fact that they'd see me naked. But they're always so, just so respectful, and it's just nice, Fans are great. I mean, if it wasn't for fans, we wouldn't be doing what we were doing, and there would be no industry. Mm-hmm. But people do, and they rarely, face to face, they never ask me if the sex is real. Mm-hmm. But I mean, keyboard commandos, it's easier to ask like the more, crazy questions. So people do message me all the time. Please tell me that the sex is real. And I'm like, nope, sorry, it's not. But thanks, that you think it is. But other than that, no, they're always cool. Like once I first started in the industry, and I think it was 2 years into being in LA, I was in Orange County, and my parents are with me, and we're in a supermarket with my brothers. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I hear, Christine Wynn. And I just think to myself, this is OC, so I don't think any of my friends are down here. Right. And it's always kind of a telltale when someone uses your full name instead of just your first name when they address you. So I around, and it was these 3 Asian teenagers. And they came up to me, and they're like, hey, we just want to say, like, we're a big fan, but you were with your parents earlier, so we didn't think we should come up then. Right. I just thought that was so cute, so nice.
See, I never understood that. If I saw you on the street, I would just tell you where I knew you from. Like, I would never be embarrassed, because what's there to be embarrassed about? It's a great product. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, why would you be embarrassed? It wasn't like you had to, go to a dark room and then, go through 5 different passcodes and try to get into it in the dark web. It's like, it's on primetime TV, It's like,
and it's on all the time. Yeah, it's on all the time.
Yeah, people just got to get over that. Like, I was down in Nicaragua recently with some friends, and we were looking through all these different videos, like on YouTube, and some of them were commercials, and some of them were European commercials. And they're so much more open about sexuality or just the naked body. Mm-hmm. And we're so, I don't know what our deal is with here in America. It's like we do crazy things, but we're so... everything's taboo. Right. Can't talk about this. Can't show a boob. Like, oh my God, everyone has one. It's no big deal. Right. And the more you show it and get people used to it, it's not a weird thing. I think the less people will start to have these weird, tendencies, or perversions.
Obviously, these scenes that you're doing in these movies are not real. They're simulated, but you still are kissing, touching, and bumping and grinding. So have you ever been aroused during a scene?
I guess how I would call myself aroused is I get kind of sweaty, but I mean, this is when you have sex, you get a little sweaty, right? Right. So I guess when you're putting yourself in that situation, you're reacting, so I guess I do get aroused. I get turned on, but not so to where I'm like, oh my God, after the scene, I'm going to go crazy on this person, But it's like me, it's a reaction, and a natural reaction when anyone touches me or feels me up or kisses me is there's that physical response that you can't help but have. And so, yeah, I get that.
Are your boobs real?
No. God, I would be so happy if they were, but had the best boob job in the world. No, I wasn't concave, but I was the tiniest A that you could imagine, that was me. I barely had enough to put in a bra. I mean, I had no reason to wear a bra. It was more like a Band-Aid. But yeah, I got lucky, and it's a good story behind that. I mean, I had always been really self-conscious growing up, not having boobs, and I'd always begged my mom if I could get a boob job, and she was always like, no, we don't want to change your body too much. Mm-hmm. But I was like, please, because everyone was getting Victoria's Secret bras, and mm-hmm. I would get one, but I'd still have to stuff it with something to make it look right. And so to entice me to go to law school, my mom said that my aunt would buy me boobs if I got in. And so, what hurt could that do? Just try to get in. So I applied and I got in. So I got my boobs, but then I had to go to law school too.
It was well worth it, I must say. I can't believe that they're fake. Who was the surgeon that did this job? Because he's an old world artist. I don't see any scarring. I don't see anything. Who is this guy?
Oh my God, he was amazing. And that's a difference between, I think, surgeons in Texas, or I don't know, maybe I just got lucky. But the surgeon that I went to, I think that my mom put the fear of God in him too by telling him, do not make her look crazy. She's a tiny girl. She does not need to have too big of boobs. And, they have that whole consultation with you. And I was young, and I said, I just want to look nice. I just want to fill out. I look like a female. And so he's like, with your height, with your size, a full C would be just fine. And I don't even know how many CCs that is. And what I've realized, too, is my full C is not necessarily a California full C, because the full C's out here, to me, look like D's. But I'm very happy with what I have. It's just enough, it's like just enough to hold in your hand.
Right. It's perfect. You can't even tell. They're the perfect proportion for your body. It's like God put them there. God bless whoever that surgeon was.
Dr. Capriati, Baytown, Texas.
I hope that guy's rolling in dough. He's doing the Lord's work, that guy. What a great guy.
He's top of his field, definitely. And it's so funny, too. It's like, I'm Asian. Asians are always looking for a good deal. So I actually got mine half off because my dad made this freaking deal with him that I would do the ads for his practice if he gave me, like, a discount on my boobs. So I made out like a bandit with this.
Oh, you definitely got your money's worth. I'll just say that. Now, you've done scenes with both men and women, so do you consider yourself bisexual, or are you just gay for pay?
I'm definitely not bisexual, because it's strictly about D. Women, I think, turn me on because they're beautiful, they're soft, they kiss well, but in the end, they don't have the tools necessary to completely fulfill me, so will never be a lesbian, unfortunately.
During your career, you've been billed as Christine Wynn, Jennifer Lee, and Jennifer Loma. What is your real name?
Oh, my real name's Christine Wynn. That's my, family, parental given name. The name Jennifer Lee came about because at one point I realized, oh man, I didn't know you're supposed to go under like a different stage name for this kind of stuff. I thought it was just acting. Who knew? And so I'm like, okay, let me change my name. But, it's kind of silly because I have one face, I have one body, and I have one voice. People are going to eventually realize it's the same person, and then it's even more of a fiasco because then they're like, why'd you change your name?
Right.
Was there something you're trying to hide? And in my head, I'm like, I was trying to keep things separate, but, I fucked up, whatever. So now there's that other name out there that I tried using for a while, and I tried to use two of the most generic names I could think of that still sounded Asian. And then I don't even know the Loma part. I think it was I was shooting a lot for glamour websites back in the day. The websites where you get photo sets and the girl starts out clothed, and it's kind of like Playboy. She starts out clothed and slowly she goes down to naked.
Sure.
So I did a lot of these sites, and I think one of the sites already had a Jennifer Lee, so they took it upon themselves to change my last name to Loma. So that's how that one came about.
Are you married, engaged, in a relationship, or single and ready to mingle?
I am currently dating.
But nothing serious?
It could be serious. You never know. I always say to myself, I'm single until I have a ring on my finger.
Okay.
And I'm dating, and it could be one special person, but I never, relationships have never been my end-all, be-all, because I was in one, I've been in a couple that are really serious. I was in one for 7 years, and I was engaged for a year. And I realized it's really hard to be an entertainer and live the lifestyle that we do. It's hard to be with an entertainer because our life is a lot different. You have to deal with a lot more different things than you would with a normal layperson, just like the time we spend together, the different people that are in your lives. It's hard sometimes to be with someone who, imagine if, you were with someone who everyone has seen naked, you have to be a certain kind of person to be okay with that, I guess. Me, it means nothing. But sometimes people have these things that they can't deal with. And so relationships are not that big a deal for me. I think one comes along and is amazing, and I'm all for it, but I'm not out there actively seeking one. I think when the time is right, I'll know it.
The reason I ask is because, obviously, we've been friends on Facebook for many, many years. I don't even know if you know that, but I've been friends with you for like 8 years on Facebook, and I've been following you for a very long time, and I've obviously been a big fan of yours. And I see you, you're always eating at these beautiful restaurants, and you have this great food, or you're on vacation and you're at some beautiful place. So I'm wondering, who is the cameraman at all these places? Because if it's not a boyfriend, who's snapping these pictures? Is it a friend? Is it someone who works at the restaurant? Who's taking these pictures?
Well, you know what? That will always depend on the time and the place. It could be a boyfriend at that time if I have one, or it could be just a really good friend, or it could be, I have no shame in asking someone I don't know, hey, you need to take a picture of me, or hey, can you help me out? So it just depends. You'd have to tell me the actual video or picture.
Sure. Now, of the people that you've worked with during your career, and mainly the women, I think the audience would more be interested in hearing the women. Of the people that you've worked with, who are you close friends with? Like, who are some of the people that we've seen you on screen with that you hang out with in real life?
For some reason, I have always had more male friends. I think, because I'm a bit of a tomboy, than female friends. On screen-wise, I've hung out with in real life, and I have the best time with us. I love Rebecca Love, and I love Jazzy Berlin.
Right.
They're fun. I partied with both of them, and I've spent good times with both of them, like, talking about girl things, or we see each other in different cities and they hang out. And I love those girls to death. Like, they're just good people. They're fun, they're smart, they're strong, and I adore them. And it's kind of cool because Rebecca and I got to be a lot closer. She was so awesome and stepped in to help us for a major role that, what's the girl's name? Trump's woman that created a picture before her.
Stormy Daniels.
Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels was supposed to play the madam in Girls, Guns, and Blood, and she flaked on us the night that she was supposed to fly in for her role the next day. And, of course, the Trump broke out 2 days later, so we're like, that's why. But that night, I got on the phone, I called Rebecca, who was in Vegas, and we were shooting in Texas. Rebecca came in, like, no preparation whatsoever, and killed the role. And then we ended up rooming together for the rest of the movie, and I got to know much about her, and she's lovely. I love her to death, and she actually took me to Thanksgiving this past Thanksgiving. So I guess her and Jazzy would be the two that I've hung out with and really enjoy their company outside of work.
In real life, you're a master chef. On screen, you've played roles as a chef. There was an episode of Sex Games Cancun where you played a chef. There was an episode of Sin City Diaries where you played a chef. And then on Life on Top, my personal favorite show of the stuff that you've been in, you played a chef. So is this by design? Is it just because the people who are casting these productions know of your culinary talents, or is it just a coincidence?
Oh my God, Mike! I so wish that they would. That's why they picked me. But I think it's a purely coincidence. I think it's purely coincidence. Oh. And lucky me, because every time I get that role, I'm like, yes. Because then I get like some stills of myself, like in a chef outfit, and I'm like, easy.
Right. You got bit by the modeling and acting bug in your middle school years, that 11 to 13 age range. Now that you've done it, now that you've been a model, now that you've been an actress, now that you've lived this life, is it everything that you expected it would be? Like when you were dreaming of being a model and actress when you were a kid growing up, does the reality match up with the dreams that you had all those years ago?
Oh my God, above and beyond. Like I grew up looking at fashion magazines and just watching TV and imagining these things, and I've been so blessed. Like, I've had a lot of good friends come out here earlier than me, and it didn't work out for them, for one reason or another. I don't know, for some reason, it worked out for me, and it's been more than anything I could have ever imagined, It's like, I would like to say that everybody out here, I could tell them everything I did, and it would all go the same for them. But I think a lot of it has been a lot of good fortune. But like I said before, I'm a natural-born hustler, and I never think that I can't do anything, And I think that mindset really helps you motivate yourself. And if you walk into a room thinking you're the shit, you might come off as the shit, and it might rub off on some people thinking you're the shit. Yeah, I mean, I've just been so lucky. I've traveled the world, by no means like a crazy rich Asian, but I've traveled the world. I've been so many places, and a lot of these things been because of the work I've done. I've been lucky to travel, like to Romania, shoot Life on Top for a month. I've traveled to Tahiti to shoot a swimsuit calendar. I've been to almost all the Caribbean islands to shoot kind of swimsuit something or other. And I've met a lot of my people that I idolize. Like, I've worked with Robert De Niro, and Barbara Streisand, my little fuckers. Never in a million years would I even think I'd be on a set with them, But there it was. And it's just, sometimes I want to pinch myself. And the funniest thing is, like, with the modeling, when I was doing a lot of modeling, I always thought, man, I got by. I slipped through the cracks whenever I booked something. And then as I get older, I'm looking through some of the ads I've done. You start reminiscing when you get older. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, I was pretty okay looking. I should have enjoyed myself more than instead of thinking I was, like, slipped through. So, yeah, it's been beyond my wildest dreams. And I'm just like, if I die today, no regrets whatsoever.
You've appeared on basically every HBO Cinemax type TV show, the 30-minute series that they put out, with the exception of two. There was Girl's Guide to Depravity. You didn't appear in that, and you also didn't appear in Co-Ed Confidential.
I tried for that. Didn't get it.
Oh, you did? You did?
I tried for that. They didn't accept me.
Oh, that was going to be my next question. Because I thought that you were perfect for the lead role in Chemistry. Now, obviously, you appeared in Chemistry.
That one too.
Yeah, why didn't you get that part? Yes, Ann Alexander did a great job in that role, but that role was tailor-made for you. Give us some backstory to that.
So, if I remember correctly, with those two, different casting directors. I think it was the same casting director casting and everything, but I think the main person in charge of producing one of those, there was a little bit of a back and forth between someone else I had worked with before, and I may have gotten blackballed just because I'd worked with another person before. But, there's always politics that happen, and I think that's what kept me from getting a lead role in those two episodics. But in Chemistry, they did bring me on for one guest role. So I was happy about that. Yeah, but I think that was more politics on the end. I think I stepped on someone's toes when I worked with a certain director that they had a beef with, and so it's kind of like, if you're going to work with him, then you're not going to work with me kind of thing, which is sad. But, yeah.
Yeah, it's just too bad, because in Chemistry, that would have been the perfect role for you, because there were times where the character was really serious, there were times where the character was funny, but then there were times where the character was all about action, because the lead role for the female side of that show was a police officer, so I thought that this was the perfect role for you.
I wanted that so badly. Oh my God, I wanted it. Yeah. That was one that made me actually really sad. I was like, this is perfect for me, but in my head, I'm perfect for a lot of things.
Right.
I don't get.
Right. Now, the part B to that question is, why weren't you ever a leading lady on one of those shows? Because there's been several of those that you have appeared in a recurring or minor role, but never as a lead. But you've been a lead and a leading lady in all of the hour-long plus movies. You were always the leading lady in that, or the main villain in that. How come it never translated over to the 30-minute variety?
You know what, and this is a issue, I think, even with commercial mainstream stuff. I just don't think that an Asian is seen as a leading type, And, I mean, I guess, because, if you ever look at a casting call, a lot of them look for ethnically ambiguous, which means you can be Latino, you can be just Caucasian, but, I mean, you look at me, I'm definitely not ethnically ambiguous. Right. And I think they're just going for whatever is most generally viewed as a leading lady or a leading man. And I guess most of the GM population is still ethnically ambiguously, that's what they want. Who knows? The more people speak up, the more we will know. But that's my thoughts on it. And I thought that's the general consensus, I think, with a lot of Asian Americans, because we're always like, think of it this way. Like when you have a sitcom, right, like a TV show, anything, and it's a family, right? You have to cast everybody as Asian in that family, right? But if you don't, then if you have if the mom and dad are white, you definitely can't be the kid, so you're going to have to be the sidekick or the kid's friends, And so until we start doing more programming where it's like, But then it becomes like an all Asian cast. Like they have finally a great Asian, sitcom, but what's it called? Fresh off the boat, Like,
right.
We won, but didn't win.
I don't know why anyone hasn't come out with a sitcom where the father is white and the wife is Asian, because I know 10 or 15 people that are white men, but they have an Asian wife. I don't know why anyone hasn't tackled that market. Maybe we should come up with something.
Oh, for sure, right? And it's funny too, because I don't know, maybe the general public is not ready for that kind of mixing of nationalities and ethnicities in real life, because it is real life. Like when I lived in Texas when I was growing up, it wasn't as diverse as it is now. I mean, my graduating class of 500 people, I think there were, 10 Asians in a graduating class of 500. So I always thought to myself, it's pretty segregated. Most of my friends were white, not because I wanted them to be, it's just that's all I was surrounded by.
Right.
When I moved out here, I was like, wow, there's so many Asians everywhere, and they've got blonde hair, they've got, it was so different, but it's just what you're used to. So I think the normal person in Arkansas maybe is not ready to see something like that yet. Who knows, But I wish that producers would push the envelope a little bit more, and kind of, in entertainment, we really do influence how people are, because entertainment influences people's lives all around. And I wish sometimes we could be runners and helping make the world like a bigger place, a more accepting place for everybody. But yeah, I agree with you. Let's get on that.
Yeah. It's a no-brainer to me, because a lot of the kids that I grew up with, they had a white dad and an Asian mother. It's something that I've known forever. I can name off, tons of friends that I have that fall into that category, and tons of guy friends of mine who are married now who have an Asian wife. So I'm like, why aren't they doing this? It's just a no-brainer to me. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you is, because Life on Top is my favorite production that you were ever in, I liked both seasons. Season 1, you didn't appear in. Season 2 is when you joined the show. Season 1 was way more serious than Season 2. Season 2, they started to add in a little bit more humor, so it was perfect that they brought you in, even though your character wasn't supposed to be funny. They did have some funny lines in there for you, but the one thing I wanted to ask you was, what was it like making that show? Obviously, you're in Romania making that show, and it's a really quality production. You can tell that there's a lot of production value there, so what was it like making that?
Oh, that was a joy to be on. And it was top-notch quality production. They put a lot of money into that. The writing was really good, wardrobe, everything. And I really enjoyed it. Whenever I did one of these sexier roles that I've done, that's probably one that made me feel like I was actually on a serious episode, and it wasn't just about the sex and the sexual content. Because there was so much production quality in it, And the thing with production quality, it all comes down to money. The more money you have, the better writing you can get, the more writing you can get, instead of just putting in a bunch of love scenes to take up time. I loved shooting that. Everybody was super duper, like our Romanian crew, because we had a Romanian crew, and we had the U.S. crew that was flown in. Both were amazing, professional. They treated us great. And a lot of people are still my friends, production-wise, and the actors on that. So that was the great experience I had. It was a really amazing show. I'm happy that you liked it a lot, too.
And that was the first show that I could just watch without any of the sex scenes in it. Like, I just got so caught up in that show, because it's a very interesting show, and it's really funny. The Regina character, the office stuff, and the stuff that you brought to the table, and it's just a quality show. And if you edited out those sex scenes, you would never know that was a Cinemax production. Like, it was that high quality stuff, and the storytelling was really good. So I really loved that, and that was actually the first production that you've made that I could just fast forward the quote good stuff and watch the boring acting stuff. So I really love that show. But one thing I wanted to ask you was, have you ever been vajazzled in real life?
No, I haven't. I just don't understand how anyone would, because everyone knows this, so I don't have any problem saying it. I don't wear underwear unless I think someone's going to see it, or my skirt is way too short. I feel like I'll be vulgar, like in church. But who would do that? Because if you wear underwear, it gets stuck on everything, you know? And unless you're showing your tutu to everybody all the time, I guess it's just for you to see. I don't know. To me, it was just having it done for the show. It was very uncomfortable. I want my jewels on my hand or my neck or my ears, not on my tutu, you know?
Another production that I recently watched of yours was the Sexapede / Sexually Bugged, however you want to go with this. There's so many titles to all these productions that you've been in. One thing I wanted to ask you about that one was, what is the sexapede made out of? And obviously at the end of the movie it's moving in your hands, so is that something that's like electronic, or are you moving it? Like, give me some background on that creature.
That was so much fun to shoot because we had to do a lot of, like, you know, tricks with, like, lighting, make it look crazy. But it was just rubber, big, humongous centipede, something like you'd give a child to play with. Just a big rubber centipede. And so all the wriggling is either me wriggling it myself, or there's a string attached to a pole that someone off camera, the crew person, is wriggling, you know, to chase me around or chase whoever around. But, yeah, everything is, like, I mean, we did, like, an Indiana Jones kind of shadow shot, too, where it looks like it's coming out of my mouth.
Right.
Yeah, but it's honestly just you go into any toy store or whatever and grab one for your kid. It's a rubber, humongous centipede.
Where was that movie filmed? Because that's not the traditional setting for these kinds of movies. Usually they're at a mansion or on the beach somewhere. This was like at a campground. It didn't look and have the feel of the traditional movies that you've been in. So where was this filmed?
Oh, my God. I loved it so much. Jim Wynorski was the director on it, and it was filmed in Woodstock, New York. And it's the first time I'd been there, and it was awesome. Yeah, beautiful for that. It was during, like, I think, during one of the winter months, too. So it was kind of eerie, you know. The whole town, it felt like a town where, like, if you yelled and you're getting slaughtered in your house, no one would know for miles, you know. Perfect for that.
It was filmed in New York. I would have guessed Big Bear. It had that Big Bear feel to it.
Woodstock, New York.
Another one of my all-time favorite shows that you were on. Now, of course, you only appeared in one show, but technically you appeared in more because the way they did the editing for this show, they made it feel like there were more people in these scenes than were actually in the scene in the particular episode. But Sex Games Cancun, when you played that chef, what was it like making that show? And how many people are actually working that day that you're making your episode? Because the way they edited it together, it would feel like every single person from the entire season was there at the same time. So what was it like making that show?
That was a lot of fun. That was I had a great time in that one. And you're so right, so perceptive. Because of the editing, yeah, usually on a set, if I remember correctly on that one, it was like 3 or 4 of the cast were on my the day that I shot.
One of my favorite mainstream productions you've appeared in is a movie called Table for Three. I just think it's a made-for-DVD movie. I just think it's hilarious. I read some reviews online, and a lot of the critics hate it. I don't know why. I just think it's a really funny movie. What was it like making that? And you have a really small part, but you act big in it, so it's a quality part. But who did you meet on that set? Because 2 of my favorite actors currently were in that movie with you, Sophia Bush and Brandon Routh. Did you meet any of them?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so, like, out there. That's been a long time ago. That was really cool to work with Brandon Routh and Sophia Bush. They were honestly awesome people, great actors, really nice, super professional. And that was awesome. It was, you know, my part was so tiny, but it was memorable because I got to act with actors that were doing big things, and so it spurs you to want bigger things too.
This might be a very difficult question for you to answer just because of the nature of the movies that you've been in, but what character would you say that you've played in a movie or on TV is most like you in real life?
Most like me in real life? I think the chef. You know, there was the one where I played the chef and I was in a contest. I think it was Sin City.
Yeah.
Sin City Diaries.
Yeah.
I think that's the closest to me in real life. You know, I'm kind of like a homebody. And I'm just like a good old girl. You know, like in the movie, like I'm all sensitive and emotional. And usually I was like kind of like the underdog that wins, you know. And I feel like that's me in real life. I'm just a good old homebody. I love to cook, you know. I think of myself as like the girl next door, and I'm just like really normal, not like a big sex kitten or anything like that, you know? I'm kind of like that girl next door that does well, you know, ends up winning, like the homecoming queen or whatever. No one would ever think she did. That's more me.
Have you ever, or do you ever, go back and watch the stuff that you've made, either just as a fan or as an actor just trying to study themselves and trying to get better? Do you ever go back and watch any of the stuff that you've made?
The only times I do that, honestly, is if I'm start dating somebody, and I want to be totally honest with them in case, you know, I don't want anyone to be ever shocked, which I don't know why they would be, but I guess depending on what you're used to, about anything I've done. And I like to be really upfront and transparent about who I am. And so most of the times when I go back and watch things I've done, especially the sexy stuff, it's with someone I'm currently dating or trying to date, and I'm trying to acclimate them so that they're not so surprised if they were to run into someone who said, "Oh my God, I've seen Christine naked," and they're like, "Why?" you know. And then it's kind of fun then because I get a laugh at it, and then they realize that it's just acting. But that's about the only thing. I honestly hate watching things I've been in. Because it's that nervousness of like, oh my God, am I as good as I thought I was? Did I suck? So yeah, I usually try not to watch what I've been in. Mostly I just have like a collection of DVDs. You know, I've always gotten a DVD from every movie I've been in, and I collect it, and I'm so narcissistic at one point. You know, get me started, and we watch one or two, and all of a sudden we've watched all seven.
Right.
And they're like, okay, get it.
I'm telling you, it's addictive stuff. I mean, it's like a potato chip. You can't just have one. You got to have them all.
My good friend Frankie and I always laugh because he's been in a lot of movies with me, and we always think to ourselves, one night we're just going to get some wine and just get lit and watch all our movies. We're so narcissistic, it's funny. Only actors will do this.
What role have you played during your career only once, whether it was in a movie or on TV, that you would have liked to have played another time? Is there any role that you've played that you're like, you know what, I'd like to revisit that again in the future?
Oh, yeah, for sure. You know, I did a short film with a really awesome director, Alan Chan. It was called Loop, and it was my first ever full action. And it was just a short, but I really enjoyed it because it was sci-fi. I played like 7 of myself, and I was like a special agent, and I was like, you know, we were doing everything. And it was like a high desert in New Mexico, shooting guns, you know, like punching, just like all these fight scenes. And it was all about time management and looping. It's right before ours actually came out before Looper with Bruce Willis came out, which was almost the same premise. And I always thought to myself, man, I wish we could do like an episode of this. This is really cool, you know? I like playing those roles where the women are real strong, like they're like an FBI agent or CIA person or something. I like those roles a lot.
What does your family think of the productions that you've been in? Do they watch any of them, or they're like, you know, we'll just take your word for it?
Yeah, you know, it's not their cup of tea. And it's funny, like, when I started doing it, I was like, oh, yeah, just like, you know, I don't think they'll ever see this, but if they do, I'm ready for it. So I was always waiting for that phone call from my parents. And it was actually really anticlimactic. It was like, I don't know, probably 6 years into having done these. And I didn't even think my parents got cable. They're just not the type that watch a lot of TV. Like my mom used to love watching QVC. I think she spent most of her time on that channel. But I did finally get the call like 5-6 years in, and my mom was like, so funny, your father fell asleep in the game room. He was sick. And he woke up because I've been told that I have a very distinctive voice. Mm-hmm. And so supposedly my dad had fallen in the game room watching TV, and he woke up in the middle of the night because he thought I was in the room with him. Well, I guess it turned to late night programming, and one of my movies was on, and I was kissing Siren, who is an actress that was in a lot of the movies with me.
Right.
I was kissing her. And I think it was like Lost Girls, Bikini Girls from the Lost Planet, one of my first movies ever.
Right.
Well, that was on the TV, and so my dad heard my voice, so he woke up. And that's when he saw me kissing Siren on screen. So I got the call the next day from my mom, and it was really anticlimactic. She wasn't upset. She was just like, she wanted to let me know that if I was a lesbian, it was okay to let her know that they still loved me. And that, you know, if I have unprotected sex, I could get the AIDS.
Right.
AIDS. And so it was just so cute, and I had to tell her, no, it's just acting, Mom. She's like, well, you're so beautiful with your clothes on. Why would they want you to take your clothes off. That's just not right. And I told her, well, these are the kind of acting jobs I can get, Mom. It's just a love scene. Everybody does it, you know?
Right.
And so she just wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing. She trusted me, and she said, if it's about money, don't do it. You've always got backup. We'll always help you. And I told her, I think I know what I'm doing. Don't worry about it. I'm very smart. But no, it's not about the money, and I want to continue to be able to act, and right now this is the only opportunity I have. So my mom was great about it. I loved her. She was always very supportive.
Yeah.
My dad, on the other hand, there was a little rift between us, because I guess no man wants to see his daughter date anyone, much less be on TV with several different people, but that's the way an actor is. And my dad was already sour that I left law school to pursue an acting career.
Sure.
So that didn't help our relationship much, but it is what it is.
That could be one of the best stories I've ever heard, because I can just imagine your dad going to the doctor and being like, hey, doc, I must be really sick. There's something wrong with me. I could have swore I was having hallucinations. I saw my daughter on TV kissing another woman.
Yeah. I used to teach Sunday school in Texas, so I'm just thinking in his head, from Sunday school and law school to this.
Yeah. Boy.
It definitely did not go the chosen path that they had for me.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're a huge sports fan, and obviously you're from Texas where football is king, so would you say football is your favorite sport?
I used to be basketball. I used to be a die-hard Laker fan, even when I lived in Houston. But it's just hard to keep on watching a team lose, and that's when. And I used to think football was too hard to understand. Mm-hmm. But as I came out here, and I realized after the Lakers stopped winning, I love the sport so much I had to latch onto something. And baseball is just too long a season, so I started watching football, and then I was hooked. After I started watching, I was like, wow, this is a friggin' great sport. Plus, it's a quick season, and it's people are so talented in all the different positions, and it's so strategic that I just fell in love with it, and ever since, that's been my number one sport. If the Lakers come back, and I'm hoping they do, I'll jump back right on that basketball scene, but for now, NFL is definitely my sport of choice.
Why aren't you a Chargers fan? Because I've noticed that you're at all the Rams games. I see you there all the time. And then obviously you're a Cowboys fan because you're from Texas, but then you're a Texans fan because you're from Houston. So why aren't you supporting the Chargers? And besides those three teams that I mentioned, what other teams do you cheer for?
I love the Chargers, but it's so hard because, they're from San Diego. And so in my head, I still kind of connect them with San Diego. Plus, because the Rams play, and and good for the Chargers, though, aren't they? Just the quiet, redheaded stepchild, right? Just doing their thing. And I'm a lucky girl because all four of the teams that I love can meet each other in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like the Chargers can play the Rams, and the Cowboys can play the Texans.
Right.
So I was just thinking about that last night. I was like, oh my God, that. I think I'd go crazy because also. My birthday is usually the day before or after the Super Bowl. My birthday is February 4th, and usually Super Bowl is the day before, 2 days before, so I always have to share my celebration with the Super Bowl. And so even more so, I'm like, I can't believe my four teams, could be it. But to answer your question, I still see the Chargers as not really an LA team, which I hate myself for that. But, how far can I stretch myself out, right? Shit, 3 teams is a lot. And people are already like, pick a team. Right. Damn it, you're a traitor. Right. The other team I follow would be the Longhorns because I went to UT, and they're doing so much better. We had a dynasty back in the day, and then we've been through rebuilding. And this year, they're going up again, which is I'm so happy for them. So I started watching Longhorn football again. Who else? Otherwise, I don't really root for any other team besides the teams that are my hometown teams and my actual now hometown teams.
What's this season been like for you? Because those three teams, the Rams, the Cowboys, and the Texans, to get to this point during the season, they've got here 3 different ways. The Rams have been red hot right from the start. The Cowboys have been running hot and cold. And then the Texans, they started 0-3 and the season was looking very bleak. But now they're a contender for the AFC. Yeah. So what's it been like for you watching this season?
Honestly, with every one of my teams, I'm just so nervous all the time because I don't know if you follow some of my stuff. I feel like I'm the curse, the kiss of death for teams that I love, you know? Like, I'm loud and I'm boisterous and I got a big mouth, and I feel like every time that I really root for a team and I make it known, that team doesn't do well. And so it's like silent suffering for me. I want to just cheer for them so hard, but I know that if I do, I'm superstitious too. I feel like if I do, I'll jinx them. And so every game to me, and the thing is, not a lot of these games are blowouts, right? I mean, some of them have been, but like, oh my God, the Chiefs-Rams game killed me that I wasn't able to be there. But I mean, these have been hard-fought games, but they've all gotten here at some point or other. But even the Rams being red hot, they haven't been blowing everybody out, you know? Like the Seattle game, I went to that one. Wow. Thank God there was, like, I think it was an interception or a fumble at the end, because Seattle came close. That could have been a nightmare at the end. It could have been rejoicing all the way to us walking out to the, you know, to Uber sad as shit. But, yeah, it's silent suffering for every one of my teams, because I don't think any of them have had that easy a track. I think they've just been able to pull some great wins out.
Are you big into fantasy football? Because obviously you have your own show, Winning Picks, but that's where you just pick the winner. You don't break down who's going to have that many fantasy points. I could never get into fantasy football because, to me, it's not my fantasy. My fantasy for my football team would be to have all the best guys in the NFL. I don't like it. I don't understand it. Lisa Ann, she does her fantasy football show. Like, I can never get into that. I just can't. How about you?
You know, I'm in your boat. I can't get into it either. It's too time consuming for me, and enough time as is right now. I just don't have the time to do it, and I think I'm not really a big stats person. You know, like for me, a win's a win. I'm just happy. You know, but yeah, it's a bit too time consuming, and I've just never gotten into it either. It's too much. It's too much to deal with. Yeah. And plus, it's like you're picking and choosing from all these different teams. I just like the real thing, you know? I just like watching my team with those players win. So, yeah, not really into the fantasy football thing, but it's huge. Love it. Not enough time to do it, though.
Now, your show, Winning Picks, do you see that expanding beyond just football? Obviously, football is a very easy sport to cover and make those picks because it's only a 17-week season where the teams are only playing 16 games. But do you see it becoming something where it's just a sports picking show, or even expanding beyond maybe into combat sports?
Yeah, well, it's funny you should say that. It's going to be, I love combat sports. My ideal for my show would be, I started with the picks because it makes it fun for everyone, right? Everyone likes to make a little wager here and there, whether it's a beer or a couple bucks on the table. But my ideal and my vision for this is to have like a talk show, a sports talk show, where I could talk about all the different sports that I love, and not necessarily about picking any winners, but just basically talking about sports, you know, kind of like a Joe Rogan type podcast.
Right.
Where I can talk about UFC, I can talk about what's going on with baseball if it's in season. If it's a great tennis match that I get into, I played tennis for a long time up until college. Then only until recently have I not played much, but I want to be able to talk about anything because I really admire athletes. They're so disciplined, and it takes so much. We only see the glory or the defeat, but there's so much more that goes into it. Like I just watched Serena Williams, Being Serena, whatever that show is she has on HBO. And there's so much that goes into being the top of your game, and I just respect that. And so when I watch these people play, it's amazing to me. And there's so much more backstory, you know, and with history as well. So that's where I envision Winning Picks to go. I want it to get to a point where winning picks, not as in gambling, but picks is in what I want to talk about, picking the topics, you know, that are most important to me and what other people might feel are important. And I'm really happy because, you know, with the couple, I have like 7-8 shows out already. I've gotten some interest, and I'm actually I have a friend in production who's an agent flying in this week, and we have a meeting at a production company to see if we can take Winning Picks to the next level. Can't really talk about how we're going to do it yet, but it won't definitely be this format. It's going to be a lot more interactive with audience and more location-based. So cross your fingers for me. Hopefully something pans out and we take this to the next level.
Yeah, it's really a good show. Anyone who's out there listening to this, check it out. I haven't missed a single episode, and I never will miss a single episode. I just love your insight, and I love that you just are out there making it happen, because you're someone who's very talented, and it's nice to see that you're expanding your horizons. Now, one thing I really wanted to ask you, because this just kind of crept up on me, because obviously I've been a fan of yours for a very long time, and I've been following your career for a very long time, and I always would see you posting in the past, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, posting about boxing or something like that. God. And then somewhere, somehow, you transitioned over into MMA, which is a sport that I cover and am very passionate about. And then all of a sudden, it just happened. I saw you posting about the UFC and posting about all these fighters. I'm like, wait, I know these people. I've interviewed these people. And Christine Wynn, someone I'm a fan of, is now a fan of MMA. When did this happen? How come I didn't know about this? So, when did you become an MMA fan?
I can tell you the exact, I mean, we can look up the date, but I can tell you the exact time, the exact event that I became an MMA fan. Mm-hmm. I used to never like UFC MMA. I just thought, to me, it was like, the most I saw of it was maybe like Bully Beatdown on MTV,
right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, God, that's just so barbaric. It's just a bunch of people getting these brawls, you know? But then I was dating this guy, and he was really into boxing, and he wanted to watch the first Jones-Gustafsson match. Mm-hmm. And so he made me watch it with him, and I kid you not, Mike, that I turned that night. I was like, wow. It was 5 rounds, and when two amazing athletes at their level are fighting in MMA, you see all the different martial arts that are being used. You see the grappling. You see the jiu-jitsu. You know, you see the striking. Mm-hmm. And so I realized, okay, there is skill in this. And, you know, remember I said, like, the reason I love sports? Now MMA has become a sport to me because it's skill. Mm-hmm. It's dedication. And I saw then, and thanks to those two guys, and which makes me even happier, because this is going to be my first UFC themed show for Winning Picks. It's going to be the week before that fight. That's coming up on December 29th. Right. But that's the day that I turned, because of these two guys and how great they were, and their performance was amazing that night. Right.
That's awesome. You're coming full circle.
Yes.
That's great.
And I still love boxing too, but sure. I have to say, like, I watched the Deontay Wilder Fury fight. Yeah. I was so disappointed, and I'm going to be really freaking honest with you. I've been so disappointed now. The last Canelo Triple G fight, I thought was good. That was a good one. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, all these fights, I kind of felt like, maybe it's because I wouldn't score them the way they did, and I'm not like some kind of like amazing boxing expert, but it always feels like there's something not so right, or there's a fix-in, or so many politics, you know? Right. And I hear that from a lot of fans. Like, they used to love boxing back in the Tyson days, but all of a sudden they just lose their I don't know, passion for the sport, because it just seems so fixed nowadays, you know? It just doesn't, I don't know. Right. I don't know. How do you feel about that? A lot of people, to me, they'll still go see a fight, but they're always disappointed afterwards. You know? You
bring up great points, and this is how I always talk about this, because I'm not the biggest boxing fan in the world. I'm team MMA all the way, but I always just look at it like, it's really like the rematch is the real fight, and the first fight is just to get us interested in seeing the second fight, because the first fight, something always ridiculous or weird happens in that fight that makes people go, oh, well, we got to see a rematch, we got to see these guys again. Like, it seems like boxing is playing tricks on us so that they can build a rematch and make even more money. That's how I feel.
Oh my God. You know what? I just had the same exact conversation yesterday with a friend of mine, and he brought up the same point, and it's so true, right? I mean, I don't think that would have been the first thing across my mind, but that's so intelligent. That's what it feels like. And then you feel like you're being played, you know? Because you already bought your $100 or $70, whatever. Okay, but think about it this way. I'm doing devil's advocate. Sure. So you're all big into MMA, right? Right. So how about like the kind of like the McGregor and Diaz, you know? First one, second one. I don't think the third one ever happened. But it kind of built up for that too, right? I know Khabib and McGregor will never happen again. I don't think so. But it kind of feels that way as well. So it's like, is that with all, you know, like combat sports? You know, doesn't it always kind of set up for the next time? Right. Unless there's a knockout, right? And even when there's a knockout, you're like, well, it was kind of maybe close. He could have had a chance. Yeah, I don't know. But it seems sometimes like the fix is on, though, for boxing, and I get what you feel. I think a lot of people do.
What are your feelings on Floyd Mayweather at this current moment in his career? Because he's been going back and forth. He's going to be in MMA. He's not going to be in MMA. He's going to welcome some MMA fighters to fight him in boxing like he did for Conor McGregor and all that stuff. Like, I'm kind of over him. Like, all right, he's 50-0 or whatever. He's had a great career. Like, I'm ready for him to ride off into the sunset. Like, I'm kind of over him. What are your thoughts on Floyd?
I am too. I so appreciate him and have respect for him as a businessman. And I do have respect for him as a fighter because more so like in his younger years, Golden Glove days, right. Olympics and everything. But just like with the whole like recent controversy with the Korean kickboxing guy. Yeah. I mean, was that real? What was that, like a hoax? What was that, And it's kind of like, it's so hard, though. I had this conversation with a friend of mine again. We were like, once you've been in that spotlight and the adoration, and then also when you've competed all your life, can you step away, really? It's kind of like when Michael Jordan came back. I mean, he still rocked it, but it's like, then Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz, he should have ridden off with, the glory that he had, right? Because now this is the last thing people remember about him. Right. So with Floyd, I think he should just manage people now. I think but it's like I said, we forget that athletes are performers too, just on a different scale. And I'm sure it's hard for him if he's still fit and seeing all this stuff going on around him, not to want to kind of throw, his hand in there and be a part of it. But I agree with you. I'm kind of ready for people to retire at the right time, move on to something different, and let, the new breed come up. Especially when it comes to combat, because, you can get hurt so easily, and it would just be a shame to get hurt when you really didn't have to do it, for the money or anything. You mentioned Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell. That fight took place outside the UFC. That was under the Golden Boy MMA banner, the Oscar de la Hoya production that he put together, his first MMA show. Technically not his first show. He was with Affliction with Donald Trump way back in the day, but this was his first go-around in MMA as a solo promoter. So it brings up the question, do you just watch all MMA? Will you watch the UFC and Bellator and these other shows, or do you just watch the UFC and this Ortiz-Liddell fight just piqued your interest because they used to be UFC champions? Do you watch all MMA? I don't watch all MMA, but recently I've been watching things that I'm interested in. Like I watched an FS1. It wasn't pay-per-view. It was Cerrone and
Mike Perry.
Mike Perry, yeah. I watched that one, and I kid you not, I was looking at my friends and I was going, why isn't this pay-per-view? Right. Like, this card was fucking awesome. The girls were amazing. Remember the girls? Oh, my God. Yeah. And I was like, this card was great. This should have been a pay-per-view. Why can't these guys get the numbers in the gate, that these guys are making millions for? And because Cerrone, I love him. Like, when I started watching, he was one of those, like one that stood out because he's got that persona and that character about him that precedes him. Right. But I try to watch whatever intrigues me and I think is cool. See, I thank a lot Joe Rogan's podcast for that because I listen to him a lot at night just to relax. I know that's kind of weird, but he does have a soothing voice. Right. So I listen a lot for him to relax, and he talks about a lot of cool people that the more he talks about them or he brings them on his show, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't think I've ever seen this guy fight before, so I'm a big YouTuber. I'll YouTube every fight I can. If I get into somebody, I will YouTube them to A through Z and watch everything about them. And so I start watching things like that, and I love promos. Whenever I see a promo, I watch it. And then also through social media, I'm starting to get to know a lot more people like you, MMA fans, trainers. I have a trainer in Vegas that I'm going to be interviewing for Winning Picks. And one of his guys is going to be fighting December 9th, and it's going to be on Azteca TV. And so I'm going to try to tune into that just to support him and his fighters, because the more you get into it, the more you watch the vlogs, the more you're like, wow, it's a lot of dedication, a lot of people involved, not just the fighter. So because I love this sport so much, I'm starting to try to support as much of it as I can, not just like the headliners. You mentioned Donald Cerrone. Besides him, who are some of your other favorite fighters to watch? I love watching Cormier because, goddamn, can he get a break? Can't
Right.
people just like him? He's a good guy.
Love that guy.
He's a fighter.
Yeah.
It kills me because, I'm a nice person. I like nice people, and I feel like nice people should get a friggin' break.
Right.
And the poor guy cannot get a break.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I kind of hated on him a tad bit when he beat, I can't remember who he beat, but then he called out Brock Lesnar, and I was just like, oh, God, really? That was so, was that necessary? But I do love watching him fight. I love John Jones. Gustafsson, I've been waiting for this fight. I'm waiting for it since the day it happened back then.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to TJ. I like watching TJ Dillashaw. I like him a lot. And then this new guy that's thinking about coming in. I'm not that great with names yet, so I constantly have to YouTube things and Google things to remember the name again. But I think it was a guy that was with Bellator, and Dana White didn't like him that much, and then he had some beef with him. But now it seems like he's really. I think his name starts with a K.
No, it's Ben Askren.
Ben Askren, yes. He's the one, because I listened to him on the podcast with Joe Rogan, and he really intrigued me. And so I want to start watching him more. And I just, it's like all these little tips that he have with each other, like with Dana White or between themselves. It's great entertainment. It piques the audience, and it really gets my attention. So he's one that I'm looking forward to watching. I used to love watching, who I like to love Max Holloway. I don't know why. I just love him.
He's fighting this weekend, defending the belt. Yeah. That'll be a great one. I'm looking forward to that fight. Now, obviously, you're a sports fan. That's one of your hobbies. You're a world-class chef, because I've seen all the stuff that you're cooking, and it looks amazing. What's your specialty?
Oh, my specialty, I think, it's getting to be more and more Vietnamese food. Mostly because not a lot of people do it, and every time I go to a Vietnamese restaurant, unless it's really like a mom and pop kind of shop, I'm like, this is not what I grew up with. And so I go places, and I remember how my grandma cooked, and I want to emulate what she did. And so it makes me try harder to do the same dishes, but put my own flair in. And when I can turn people onto Vietnamese, everyone eats sushi, everyone orders Chinese food, Thai, Japanese, whatever. I don't think a lot of people know about Vietnamese and how good it is yet. And so that's like my one big goal, aside from getting people to learn how to spell my last name. I want to turn people on to more Vietnamese food. It's so good. And if I can do that one YouTube subscriber at a time, I will do so.
What's your favorite food to eat?
Ooh, Jesus. My favorite food to eat. Soup. Love soup. Soup is perfect for any time of day, any season. There's cold soups, gazpachos, cold potato soup, good thick hearty soups, Vietnamese soups. To me, a lot of people like soup. That's like an appetizer. I don't know. Soup is a meal. I can eat soup any time of day. Good bowl of soup and a nice piece of bread. That's all I need.
Sports, that's one of your hobbies. Cooking, that's another one of your hobbies. Traveling, that's another one of your hobbies. What's your favorite travel destination?
Oh my gosh, travel destination. Oh, I'm not a big romantic person, but I love Paris. I mean, I've been there, I think, more than any other place, just because I have family in France and in Paris. But something about that city, it's just every time I go there, I just fall in love with it all over again. And I am by no means like a romantic person. And in fact, the last time I was there, I actually broke up with my boyfriend there, so I spent the rest of the time by myself. Just had a great time.
Oh, boy.
Something about that city, it's just, it makes me feel giddy. And it's scary to go there, Mike, because every time I go there, I feel like I might not come back home. Like I might just start over, Just leave everything, not get my clothes, start over. Yeah, something about that city.
You're taking the meaning of "we'll always have Paris" to a whole new level.
I know, right? Don't go to Paris with me, we might break up.
There's sports, there's cooking, there's travel. What other hobbies do you have?
I love to read. And I'm straight up like, I don't like the Kindles and stuff. I'm like talking a book in your hand. And like if I start something, I usually try to finish it within 2 or 3 days. Like I'm real OCD with anything, If I do it, I just want to finish it. I love to read, and I read. I hate to say it, but I read a lot of biographies. But I love like trash novels, like Jack Collins type stuff. I love that. I love fiction, And then when the book's over, I'm actually always sad. have to say, I was shooting in Jamaica. It was for like one of the sexiest thing to do. And I was trying to buy a cigarette, and they wouldn't take my credit card unless I spent my money. And, this is like this old convenience store where everything looks like it's been on the shelf for like years, and it's kind of like rusty or like the label's faded. And so I'm like, I don't want to buy anything crappy here, so let me get a book. And they have one of those book turnstiles that looks like they just randomly like found books on the street and put them on there to resell them. Mm-hmm. And so I picked up this book that had a picture of an apple, and the name of it was Twilight. And I was like, this looks cool. So in my head, I read that book voraciously. I think it took me a day to read it. And then I was so sad because I'm like, oh, man, some random book I picked up in a shop in Jamaica.
Right.
I wish there was like another one. And all of a sudden, I guess it was a newer one. Remember Twilight? It just blew up?
Right.
It blew up. And then I was traveling again, and I was in an airport like Hudson's store, and I saw the second edition, or whatever the next one was. And I was like, oh, my, I felt like I won the lottery. Oh. But, yeah, reading is, like, amazing to me. It's like everyone watches movies nowadays, but if you think about it, it's like Game of Thrones. It all started from a series of novels, Mm-hmm. And I lose myself in books. And I love books, reading, and I love music. I was like, it's never a quiet moment in my life. I always have some kind of music in the background because music is everything. Once again, I can't perform music, so I appreciate people who can, and that's just like, wow, talent.
Favorite band and or solo artist?
Ooh, that's hard. I love Foo Fighters, that kind of music, like Black Crowes. I think it's one of my favorite type of music. I love good old, like, rock and roll, Not so much glam rock, but, I'm talking like Black Crowes, Foo Fighters kind of stuff. Like, if you have three guys in a room with the guitars and make good music, that's the kind of music I like. Not too overproduced, just good old, like, genuine rock and roll. I think, if you ever look back, they're going to be timeless. Amazing musicians, great lyrics, great feel. Vocals-wise, that's hard. Yeah, when it comes down to it, I'm just good old rock and roll. I love all kinds of music, though, from, like, I even love country kind of, it's from Texas. But I had to take a concert, there's a tribute to Chris Cornell coming up at the Forum, where, like, Eddie Vedder's going to be there because they were with the dog together. All these people are amazing musicians are going to come out, and that is something, like, that's something, I would like to go where we'll probably be going to.
Favorite TV show, and it can be a show currently on the air or a show no longer on the air, just overall favorite TV show.
So, you asked me earlier what addiction I had or something like, something I don't tell people about myself. I love cooking shows, cooking competitions. Hell's Kitchen, I used to love that show. And then before that, I loved Sons of Anarchy. I went through a little depression after my mom passed away, so I didn't get out of bed for like a good 9 months. I mean, I think I showered like 2 or 3 times a week. But after all, I think it was 7 or 9 seasons of Sons of Anarchy in a month. I love that show.
Do you have any nicknames?
Well, a nickname that my girlfriends and some of my really good friends call me now is Flipper, because I have like this really annoying high-pitched laugh. You see it in my videos sometimes when I'm kind of tipsy. But yeah, I've been called Flipper, and people call me Princess a lot. I don't know why. I guess because I'm a little, not high maintenance, but I don't know how I come across. But I love being called that, though. Who doesn't, right? What girl doesn't want to be called a princess? But yeah, Flipper, I get called a lot.
I remember there was a Facebook post you made, like, God, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years ago. This is going way back. This is a really long time, but it really stuck with me because you were talking about tattoos and you were a fan of tattoos, but because of the modeling gigs that you had, it would be difficult to book some of the gigs because maybe the photographers don't want to shoot women who have tattoos, or it would be too difficult to cover them up depending on where they are and what they are, something along those lines. But I saw a picture of you recently and I saw something that was on your back. Is that a real tattoo? And if so, what is it?
Okay, yeah. I always enjoyed looking at ink on other people, and I always wished in my head I could have it, but yes, I didn't, because it sets you apart when you're modeling. It's easier to start with a clean slate, even though it's a big tattoo on you, and you kind of get typecast. And sometimes it's hard to cover up a tattoo, especially in television and film. And so that's the main reason I never got it. I also thought maybe I don't take pain that well. So I was like, I'm not going to get it. But I was getting older, and I'm like, I just don't give a fuck anymore. You know, I'm not going to be modeling much anymore, and I'm going to be in more specific roles. No, and when my mom passed, I wanted something to remember her by. That was the only reason I would ever get a tattoo. It would have to really mean something. Mm-hmm. It is forever. When my mom passed, it was a really bad circumstance, the way everything ended up in the end, and I didn't get the time I was hoping to have with her, so there was a lot of pain in me, and I think to release the pain and not the remembrance of her, I got a phoenix because my mom was cremated, and I always want to think that my mom rose up, you know, and is somewhere again, somewhere doing something, looking down on me. So I got a phoenix on the back of my neck, and it was 6.5 hours of endless pain, and I think I'm one and done. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll go through another traumatic event. Who knows? But so that it's for my mom, and I did it. And it's funny because even after I did it, the first time I posted it, because I was like, I did it for my mom. I was so proud. I wanted to show people, you know, to just commemorate my mom. And at this point, I had a corporate job. I was a marketing director for a company. Mm-hmm. And the moment I put it on, not 2 minutes later, I got a call from my boss asking me to take it down because, well, first of all, I always try to keep my business side and my entertainment side a little separate.
Sure.
And so there was enough problems with people always, you know, wanting to talk to me because of what I did when I'm out and about, and they didn't want that to cloud some of the message I was giving for my corporate company. And so immediately I had to take it down and pretty much not talk about or be happy about my tattoo until I got let go from that job. And then after that, it was full force. I blared it everywhere.
Some people are afraid of spiders. Some people are afraid of heights. Some people are afraid of the dark. What are you afraid of?
Oh, my God. Okay, I'm the biggest pussy you'll ever meet. Even like on a set where I'm in a horror movie, when you see the fear and the fright and the yelling, it's so real. It's so true. It's actually me. I'm a big pussy. I don't watch horror films because if I do, I can't sleep. And I'm in my head, bad things are always happening to me. Like the other night, I was, had a little bit touch to drink. It was getting a little bit late. I was talking to someone, and all of a sudden, it was because of the way the light was hitting them. It looked like their ears were bleeding. So in my mind, there's always a horror story happening around me. So I don't like horror movies. I don't like things that frighten you because it just sends me into panic, and I don't sleep well, and I don't function well afterwards. So once I dated this one guy who was so about, haunted houses, and it was Halloween.
Right.
So we went to Universal Studios, and they do some of the best it's all like, it's movie sets.
Right.
And so we went, and I remembered, and this was a chilly night. It's in October, right? I was drenched from head to toe. Like the sweater I had was soaked. My hair was soaked and like plastered to my face. And I remember, I think the 5th haunted house, I tapped out. I was done. I was like, I'm gonna have a heart attack. But I'm a lot of fun to watch because I'm not fun to be around because I've hit people before. I'm that type of person that swings wildly because I get scared and I end up knocking someone, clotheslining someone. But yeah, I don't like scary things. I'm not about it. I can be a scary thing because I just did a really cool shoot for Halloween. But even afterwards, I remember I went home and I scared myself. I didn't take all this stuff off before. I freaked out.
Go-to song when you're singing in the shower?
Christina Aguilera's Beautiful.
In past interviews, sometimes your Texas accent comes through, but I've noticed today it hasn't really come through. Are you starting to lose it?
I think because, not really. When I'm around people from the South, it comes out full force. Mm-hmm. And the longer, I'll be in Houston, first day it comes out a little bit. By the 10th day, I sound straight up like I'm from, East Texas.
Right.
But being out here, I just don't encounter it that much. I think I'm losing it here and there. But every now and then, I'll start talking to some of my Texas buddies again, and then after that, 2 or 3 days after that, I sound Texas again. Yeah, and I think I even got, I even let go of y'all. I used to say y'all a lot. Now I kind of go, you guys, or, you, just you.
Right.
I used to say y'all all the time, and that was just like a dead ringer, like, okay, where are you from?
Right. If you could go on a $1 million shopping spree at any store, what store would you go on that $1 million shopping spree at?
Woo-hoo! I would go to Best Buy. Oh, Home Depot. Best Buy or Home Depot.
If you could stay one age forever, how old would you stay and why?
28. Too young to care, feeling invincible, but old enough to know better.
But that's not really a good answer because you are permanently 28. You look the exact same as when I first saw you. Like, you do. I can't even believe it. Like, I have to look at who the actors are around you, because obviously some of them in the beginning of your career, they retired. They were adult performers like Randy Spears and some of those guys. So I have to look for those people to tell what year this thing is from. Or I just look at the quality of the camera, because some of the stuff, it wasn't, shot in this high def that we're getting now. But you look the exact same as you did when I first discovered you. It's amazing.
Oh my God, you're so sweet. Like, you're just my friend forever now. Brownie points for you every day of the week. I think I'm lucky because Asians, I always say Asian don't raisin.
Right.
I'm 64, and the thing is, I always think to myself, oh my God, if I didn't drink, I didn't party, and I didn't smoke, I would look like I was 10. But damn it, I do. So, but thank you. Yeah, I think I've been blessed, but every now and then I've realized that as I've gotten older that I might look young, but my body on the inside, I need to take better care of it, because the other day I went to, just for a normal checkup, and I was told I have a heart murmur. So I'm like, oh my God, that scared the hell out of me. So I went home to check it up, and some of them were kind of normal, but I realized maybe it's time to quit smoking, girl. You gotta, start taking better care of that machine.
Yeah. But you just look amazing. Like, I can't believe it. Like, you've stayed the exact same. You're permanently whatever age you were when I first saw you. I'm
a vampire.
Yeah. Well, you were. You were. I guess that wasn't acting in Lust at First Bite.
Totally. Someone turned me, man. You know what turned me is like happiness. I think that too. I kid you not. I really try to stay positive all the time. And I always try to, the years when I was depressed, I looked older, I looked old. And I really think that what is inside you, and it sounds hokey and kind of like hippie, but it's not really. How you feel inside, I think, really translates to how you are outside. And every day, I'm just so happy, and I'm so blessed, and I feel that way, that I try to exude that. And the happier you are, if you notice, it kind of sweats off onto other people around you, and they're happy. And then, there's a glow inside that comes outside. And I think that's a main reason why I am the way I am. Because I have a lot of friends, too, who, man, they're doing so much better than I am. Or their life, I wish I could swap lives with them, but they don't look happy. And then I see them. It wears on them, in years, in looks. And so I always think to myself, I don't want that. I want to, as much as I can, be happy. I mean, not every day is perfect, but I honestly think that's the key for a lot of people. That's the fountain of youth right there.
What's your pet peeve?
Insecurity. I think insecurity in anything spawns bad things from it, and I don't like insecurity. It's just terrible. It's exhausting. In myself, it was. I used to be a really insecure person. I mean, it's hard not to be insecure in this industry, too. You get judged all the time by your looks, or you always getting judged. But when you learn to just not be insecure and be really confident in yourself, you got to find some reason to be confident. You don't have to be the smartest. I'm not the smartest. I'm not the most beautiful. I'm not the most talented. But you got to find that love within yourself. And once you do, you stop becoming insecure, and you stop hurting people because of your insecurity. Because insecurity is a killer. It hurts you. It hurts people around you. It breeds hatred, and I don't like it in people. And if I sense it in anybody, I run.
What's your hidden talent?
I'm really efficient. I don't know if it's a hidden talent, but I feel I can do things more efficiently than most people. I don't know that that's a talent though. A hidden talent. I can sleep more than anyone I know, and I can sleep through anything, which scares me.
What's the best thing that ever happened to you?
Moving out to LA. I think it's changed my life for the better, and I don't think if there was one thing that I would never ever change about my life, it's my decision to move out here. Yeah. It hasn't been the best, easiest road, but I just know that if I stayed in Texas, and I love Texas with all my heart, I would have died. I would have been miserable. I don't think I would have blossomed into the person I am now, been able to help others the way I do now in whatever way I can. Yeah, I think best thing was that I moved out west, like Jim Morrison said. West is the best.
Time period you'd like to go back and visit, and why?
I would love to get back to the Roaring 20s. One of my favorite styles of architecture is Art Deco, and I just think that time is so decadent and so fun. New things, and women are just beginning to get a little bit stronger, you know? Flappers, like one of my all-time favorite movies, Bad Luhrmann's Great Gatsby, and that's one of my all-time favorite books. Actually, it's my favorite book all time. And I just love the feel of those days. The Roaring 20s, kind of prohibition going on, so it's another scandalous. I would love to go back then.
Yeah, you and me both. My favorite book is The Great Gatsby. F. Scott Fitzgerald, the man. I just recently watched the Robert Redford movie the other day, and I was like, this yeah. This is better than I remembered it. I was blown away by it. So yeah, great book.
I love that book. It was a quick read too, you know, but doesn't it translate to so much life? You know, it's so bad because so many. I think it really deals with an educator's life too, because I really relate to it. I feel like you can be surrounded by people, but are they really your friends? They care. Like I don't know, something like. Maybe that's one superpower. I would want to die and be able to float out above my grave and see the my funeral. You know, it's more good.
Number one thing on your bucket list?
Jump out of an airplane. Never done that before, and I feel like it would liberate me and scare the shit out of me. And I probably wasn't done, but I'd like to jump out of an airplane. So I have a fear of heights.
If you could trade places with anyone in the world for a week, who would you trade places with, and why?
I would trade places with Oprah. I would want to feel how it is to be able to have the means to help so many people, you know, do it. Yeah, I would trade places with her. I would have that ability to change people's lives, you know.
Christine, last question. If you could change one thing about the world, what would you change and why?
I would change the way people view each other. I just think there's a lot of hatred in the world right now, so I would take all the hatred out of it, you know? And maybe I would make everyone, I'd hate to make everyone one color or one race, but it's like, I feel like, I don't want to make anyone blind either, but I think if we couldn't see each other, do you think we would treat each other so much better? Like, the hatred in the world right now just kills me. It makes me so sad. And the more I travel, the more I realize we're all the same. And we need to all travel more to see other people, because then we'll realize we're all the same. Sometimes I wish we could go around like, you know, Stevie Wonder. He gets to know people by the way they talk to him, the way, you know, or the way they touch him. And it's because we see things that we think things. I wish we could all see better things.
Well said. Christine, real quick before I let you go, where can listeners follow you? Where can they find you on social media? Where can they catch winning picks? Where can they catch some of the stuff that you have coming out? Give us everything.
Okay, so if you want to know more about me and follow me, I'm on most of the major social media sites. On Twitter, my handle is nchristine. It's Nancy, Crystean, as in Nancy. And then on Instagram, it's my name with the number 1 in front of it. So the number 1, Christine Wynn. And then on Facebook, it's the number 1, my name, Christine Wynn, and then another number 1 at the end. And then if you want to see some of the fun videos I have, especially my sports show or some of my cooking demos, you can check those out on my YouTube channel, which is CNN. That's C as in cat, EENN. And now you'll be able to hear about me on my graduate show, too. So thank you so much, Mike, for having me on here. This is one of the best interviews I've ever had. Great questions the whole time.
Christine, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime.